Stop trying to control what I do with my life, my girlfriend snapped when I brought up her gambling. But then I found out she owed $18K and refused to get help. I realized I couldn't save her from herself. My girlfriend just exploded on me for expressing concern about her gambling, and now I'm questioning everything about our relationship. So I've been with Sadie for almost 3 years now, and up until recently things were pretty great. We moved in together 6 months ago and I thought we were heading towards something serious, maybe engagement next year. But over the past few months something's changed. It started small. She'd go to the casino with her girlfriends maybe once a month, blow through $100, whatever. I didn't think much of it. Hell, I blow money on stupid stuff all the time too. But then it became every other weekend. Then every weekend. Then I started noticing she was going on weekday nights after work. The thing is, Sadie's always been secretive about money. She makes decent money as a graphic designer, probably around $58K, but she's always been weird about splitting bills, always has some excuse about timing or her account being weird. I've been covering more and more of our shared expenses without really thinking about it because I make more than her and I didn't want to be that guy who nickels and dimes his girlfriend. But last month I noticed she was stressed as hell about money. Like, really stressed. She kept checking her phone obsessively, getting irritated at random stuff, and when I asked what was wrong she'd snap at me. She always brought up my trust issues whenever I asked questions, which made me second-guess myself every time. Then 2 weeks ago I saw her Venmo some guy named Tony C. $800 with just a dice emoji. I waited until we were watching Netflix and casually said, "Hey, saw you sent Tony some money. Everything okay?" She immediately tensed up. "It's none of your business, Miles." "I'm not trying to pry, I just saw the amount and wanted to make sure you weren't in trouble or something." "God, you're acting like my father," she snapped, and there was this bitter edge to the way she said father that made me pause. "I'm a grown woman, I don't need to report every transaction to you." Her words stung, but I backed off immediately. "Sorry, I didn't mean to overstep." But the way she said it stuck with me. She'd mentioned her dad's drinking problems once early in our relationship, then never talked about it again. Now I was wondering if there was more to that story. That's when I started paying attention, really paying attention. And holy shit, the signs were everywhere. The constant phone checking, the mood swings tied to whether she'd had a good night or bad night. The way she'd disappear for hours on weekends and come back either manic happy or completely dejected. The financial stress that she blamed on unexpected expenses, but could never really explain. So yesterday I tried to have a conversation with her. I waited until we were both relaxed, having dinner at home, and I brought up my concerns gently. I'm not great at confrontation, which is probably how it got this bad in the first place. "Hey, I've been thinking," I said, cutting into my chicken. "I've noticed you seem really stressed about money lately, and I'm worried the gambling might be getting out of hand. Maybe we could look into some resources together, or just talk through a budget." She set down her fork hard. "Excuse me. I'm just concerned about you. The mood swings, the financial stress, the gambling." She stood up from the table. "Miles, what gambling? I play cards with friends sometimes. That's not gambling. Sadie, the $800 to Tony, the casino trips every weekend. Are you kidding me right now?" She was getting loud. "You're treating me like a child. Stop trying to control what I do with my life. I'm a grown woman who can make her own decisions." Was I being controlling? Part of me wondered if I was turning into my father, who used to interrogate my mom about every purchase. "I'm not trying to control you, I'm just worried. You're boring and paranoid and you clearly don't trust me," she screamed. "If you have such a problem with me having fun, maybe you shouldn't come to my birthday party next weekend." I tried to calm things down. "Sadie, please, I'm just worried about you. I love you." She stared at me for a long moment, then walked to the bedroom and slammed the door. Hasn't really spoken to me since except to say that she's still thinking about whether she wants me at her party. Here's the thing though, I'm pretty sure her birthday party is just going to be another gambling night. She's been talking about getting the crew together and mentioned something about making it a lucky night. When I asked what the plan was, she was vague as hell and just said dinner and hanging out. I love this woman, but I feel like I'm watching her spiral in real time, and when I try to help, I'm the bad guy. Am I being controlling? Is this normal relationship stuff and I'm overreacting? I've never dealt with anything like this before. Part of me wants to just not go to the party and see what happens. If I'm right and it's just a gambling session, at least I'll know where I stand. If I'm wrong, then I guess I'm an asshole boyfriend who doesn't trust his girlfriend. But honestly, I keep hoping she'll come home tonight and we can pretend none of this happened. That's probably pathetic, but I miss the woman I fell in love with. I just don't know what to do anymore. Edit, thanks for all the responses. A lot of you are asking about specific signs. The biggest one is that she's gone from having her own car payment, phone bill, and contributing to groceries to me, basically covering everything shared while she handles her personal expenses. When I think about it, I haven't seen her pay for anything substantial in months. Several people have asked about the $800 Venmo. I did some digging. Yeah, I know how that sounds, and Tony C appears to be a bookie based on his public transactions. Lots of sports betting references and payments from different people. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago. I'm not exactly thrilled to admit this, but you were all right. Every single one of you who said she'd deflect, gaslight, and make me the villain was 100% right. I'm still shaking as I write this. So I took the advice from my last post and decided to approach this differently. Instead of going to her birthday party, which she made clear I wasn't welcome at anyway, I waited for her to come home and asked if we could talk. This was Saturday night, about 11 p.m. She'd been at her party since 6. She walked in and I could immediately tell she'd had a bad night. That defeated, angry energy that I'd been seeing more and more often. Before I could even say anything, she started in on me. "I suppose you're happy now," she said. "I suppose you think this proves your point." I asked what she meant and she just stared at me for a minute. Then she said, "I had a really bad night and instead of having my boyfriend there to support me, I had to deal with it alone because you decided to be petty and skip my birthday." I told her I hadn't skipped it to be petty, that I was genuinely concerned about her gambling and thought some space might help us both think clearly. That's when she lost it. "Gambling," she screamed. "It's not gambling, it's entertainment. It's social. You wouldn't understand because you don't have any friends and you never want to do anything fun." The conversation that followed was like something out of a nightmare. Every time I tried to bring up specific examples, the money to Tony, the mood swings, the financial stress, she had an explanation that somehow made it my fault. The money to Tony was for group dinner expenses that I wouldn't understand because I don't have friends. The mood swings were because I was constantly judging her and making her feel bad about herself. The financial stress was because I was keeping track of who pays for what instead of just being a supportive partner. But here's the thing that really got to me. When I asked directly how much she'd lost that night, she said, "It doesn't matter because it's my money and my life." When I pointed out that it did matter because we were building a life together and her financial problems affected both of us, she said something that just completely broke me. "Maybe we're not building a life together. Maybe you just want someone you can control." I tried to stay calm and asked her to help me understand how expressing concern about her well-being was controlling. She said that a supportive partner would trust her judgment and be there when she needs them instead of interrogating her about every dollar she spends. Then she hit me with the manipulation that I think was designed to end the conversation. "If you loved me, you'd support my interests instead of trying to change me. The fact that you're so obsessed with this tells me everything I need to know about what kind of person you are." I realized in that moment that I was never going to win this argument because we were having two completely different conversations. She was defending her right to do whatever she wanted without consequences. I was trying to save our relationship and possibly her financial future. The conversation ended with her saying she needed space to think about whether this relationship is what she wants, and that she was going to stay at her friend Jen's house for a few days. That was Saturday. It's now Tuesday and I haven't heard from her except for a text yesterday that said, "Still thinking. Need more time." I've been doing research on gambling addiction. It's like reading a checklist of our relationship for the past 6 months. I talked to my brother about it and he said something that's been stuck in my head. You know what Mom always said about Dad's gambling? That she spent years making excuses for him until she realized she was just enabling it. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved, Miles. All you can do is decide if you're willing to go down with the ship. I think I know what I have to do, but I keep hoping she'll come home and we can work through this together. I love her so much, but I'm starting to realize that the person I fell in love with might not be the person she is anymore. Edit. For those asking about the birthday party, I found out what really happened because Sadie's friend Susie called me around 1 a.m. that night. Sadie had lost over $1,200 at what was supposed to be a birthday dinner, but turned into a poker game. According to Susie, Sadie had a complete meltdown after losing the final hand. She started screaming at everyone and even tried to flip the table. Susie was about to call me to come pick her up when Sadie suddenly decided she was done with losing and left in an Uber. Susie said she'd never seen Sadie that angry and desperate before. A lot of people are asking why Susie reached out to me. Apparently Sadie asked Susie to lend her money to cover rent, and when Susie asked questions, Sadie admitted that she'd been gambling more than she should and that her uptight boyfriend was making a big deal out of nothing. Susie told me later, "I've been watching this happen for months and didn't know how to tell you. She's not the same person anymore." Susie put 2 and 2 together. Update 2. Posted 1 week ago. This is going to be long because the past week has been a complete shit show and I need to get this all out. Sadie came back Thursday night. No warning, just walked in like nothing had happened while I was making dinner. She was in full charm mode, apologizing for overreacting, saying she'd missed me, asking if we could start fresh. For about 10 minutes, I actually thought maybe we could work through this. She seemed different somehow, calmer, even helped me finish making dinner and we ate together like normal. Then she started talking about her realizations during her time away. "I've been doing some thinking," she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, "and I realized we both need to compromise here." I searched her face for a moment, then said carefully, "Okay, what does that look like?" "Well, you need to stop monitoring my finances and questioning my choices, and I'll be more communicative about my plans." I asked what she meant by communicative. "I'll tell you when I'm going out with friends so you won't worry unnecessarily." For a moment when she mentioned the debt, she looked genuinely scared, like she was seeing the reality for the first time. "I know I owe some money and that's stressful for both of us," she said quietly. But then she quickly shifted back to her usual narrative. Her expression hardened. "But that's exactly why I need you to trust me to handle this my way instead of making me feel worse about it." "What about the gambling specifically?" I asked. She tilted her head and looked confused, like I was speaking a foreign language. "What gambling?" "Miles, you're making this into something it's not. I play cards with friends sometimes. That's not gambling, that's socializing." "Sadie, you lost $1,200 at your birthday party." She looked me dead in the eye. "I don't know where you got that number, but it's wrong. Susie must have misunderstood something." So I called Susie, right there on speaker phone while Sadie stood in our kitchen. Asked Susie to explain what happened at the birthday party. The silence from Sadie as Susie described the poker game, the mounting losses, the way Sadie had borrowed money from 3 different people and still kept playing, the screaming fit when she lost the final hand, it was deafening. When I hung up, Sadie was quiet for a minute. Then she said, "Susie's exaggerating. And I can't believe you called my friend to check up on me like I'm a child." That's when I realized this woman was going to lie to my face no matter what evidence I had. But I wasn't done. I told her I'd been thinking during her time away and that I needed complete financial transparency if we were going to move forward. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice already getting tighter. "I want to see bank statements, understand our full financial picture and work together on a budget that includes entertainment expenses you can afford." She stared at me for a moment like I just slapped her, Then her face flushed deep red. She stood up abruptly. "No. Sadie, we're talking about building a life together." I said, "No, Miles." She snapped, cutting me off. "That's degrading and controlling. You have no right to see my personal finances." I walked to the counter and picked up the papers I'd printed. "I've been doing research on gambling addiction. I found information from the National Council on Problem Gambling, testimonials from people in recovery. Are you fucking kidding me right now?" Her voice was getting louder. Her face was somehow getting even redder. "There are therapists in our area who specialize in addiction. I want us to go together." She snatched the papers from my hands and threw them on the floor. "This is insane, Miles. You've worked yourself up into this fantasy where I have some kind of disease because I like to have fun with my friends. Sadie, please just look at the information. You're the one who needs therapy, not me," she screamed. "You're the one who's obsessed with controlling every aspect of my life." Friday morning, she was gone again. This time she took more clothes and her laptop. But she forgot to take one thing, a stack of mail that had been sitting on her nightstand. I'm not proud of it, but I went through it. And what I found felt like the ground had just dropped out from under me. Credit card statements going back 3 months. She owes $18,000 across 4 different credit cards. The charges are all to casinos, online gambling sites, and cash advances. Some nights she was spending $800 to $1,000. The minimum payments alone are more than her portion of our rent was supposed to be. There was also a letter from her car loan company about missed payments and another from her phone company threatening service disconnection. I sat on our couch staring at these statements for an hour. This woman has been living with me for 6 months, letting me cover all our shared expenses, while she's been hemorrhaging money gambling and hiding massive debt. I called my brother and read him some of the charges. He was quiet for a long time, then said, "Miles, she's not hiding a gambling problem from you. She's using you to fund her gambling problem." That hit me like a freaking truck. All the time she was stressed about money, but couldn't explain why. All the unexpected expenses that made it hard for her to contribute to household stuff. All the defensive anger when I asked questions. She wasn't embarrassed about gambling too much. She was protecting her ability to keep gambling by keeping me as her financial safety net. I texted her that we needed to talk and that I'd found her credit card statements. Her response, "How dare you go through my private mail? This is exactly the controlling behavior I was talking about." No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement of the lies or the debt, just anger that I'd discovered the truth. "I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've been covering her living expenses while she's been digging herself into a hole that's deep enough to bury both of us. I'm going to tell her she needs to move out. I don't know if she'll fight me on it or if she'll just disappear, but I can't keep enabling this. My brother's right. I can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved." Edit. For those asking, the $18K in debt is just credit cards. I have no idea what she might owe to private lenders or how much she's borrowed from friends and family. A few people have asked about whether she has access to my accounts. No, we never combined finances, thank God, but I did check my credit report just to be safe. Susie texted me this morning. Apparently Sadie's been calling her and other friends asking to borrow money for car repairs. Susie said no and warned some of their mutual friends. The whole friend group is starting to see what's happening. Final update, posted 3 days ago. The saga has reached its conclusion, and while it's not the ending I hoped for 6 months ago, it's the ending I needed. First, thank you to everyone who's been following this mess and offering support. Sadie came back Sunday morning. She'd been staying at Jen's place, but apparently Jen had reached her limit with the drama and asked her to find somewhere else to go. Sadie showed up with all her stuff and started acting like she was just moving back in. I told her we needed to talk first and showed her the credit card statements. Her response was exactly what everyone predicted: anger, deflection, and attempts to turn it around on me. "You had no right to look at those," she said. "That's a violation of my privacy and it proves you don't trust me." I told her that trust was earned and that lying about $18,000 in gambling debt while letting me cover her living expenses wasn't exactly trustworthy behavior. That's when she switched tactics. She broke down crying and said she was embarrassed about the debt and didn't know how to tell me. She said she'd been trying to fix it by winning back what she'd lost, but it had gotten out of hand. She promised she would stop gambling and we could work together to pay off the debt. For about 30 seconds, I actually considered it. Then I remembered what my brother had said about not being able to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I asked her directly, "Are you ready to admit you have a gambling addiction and get professional help?" She said no. She said she just had bad luck and that she could stop anytime she wanted, but gambling addiction was serious mental illness, and she didn't have that. I asked if she was willing to give me complete access to her finances and let me manage the budget while she got help. She said no. That was financial abuse, and she wasn't going to let me control her money. I asked if she was willing to attend Gamblers Anonymous meetings or see a therapist who specializes in addiction. She said no. She didn't need to sit in a room with real addicts when she just needed to be more careful about her choices. That's when I realized she was never going to change because she doesn't think she has a problem. In her mind, she's just had bad luck and everyone around her is overreacting. I told her she needed to move out. I gave her 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live and said I'd help her pack, but I couldn't continue to enable her gambling by providing free housing. She called me every name in the book, said I was abandoning her when she needed support, said I never really loved her because someone who loved her would stand by her during hard times, said I was financially abusing her by kicking her out. But here's what really sealed it for me. After all the crying and yelling and manipulation, she said this: "Fine, but when I win big and pay off all this debt, don't come crawling back to me." Even in the middle of losing our relationship and facing eviction, she was still fantasizing about gambling her way out of the hole. She moved out yesterday, didn't take the full 2 weeks, just packed everything and left without saying goodbye. I found out from Susie that she's moving in with some guy named Derek who apparently runs poker games out of his apartment. I'm not going to lie, this hurts. I loved her, or at least I loved who I thought she was. I'm in therapy now to work through this experience and figure out how I missed so many warning signs, which, unsurprisingly, ties back a lot to the family dynamic I grew up in. My therapist also says it's common for partners of addicts to gradually normalize increasingly problematic behavior, which explains how I went from "she gambles occasionally" to "she owes $18K and I'm paying all her bills" without fully realizing what was happening. Sadie will either get help on her own or she won't. But either way, it's not my problem anymore. Edit. For those asking, I'm keeping the apartment since the lease is in my name. I can afford it on my own, and honestly, having my own space feels pretty good right now. Derek apparently runs underground poker games and has a reputation for giving credit to players who can't afford to lose. Susie thinks Sadie's walking into an even worse situation, but there's nothing I can do about that. Thanks again for all the support, Reddit. Sometimes you need strangers on the internet to help you see clearly when you're too close to a situation. I'm going to be okay.